Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Gressley, the gallery director here at AO5 Gallery in Austin, Texas. And I am being joined today by one of our most popular artists, Mr. Gabe Leonard in Los Angeles. Hello, Gabe.
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
So smattering of applause.
There's probably a lot of applause going on somewhere. I heard some in the background. But Gabe and I want to remind everybody that's watching this to subscribe on that button below so you can watch all the cool interviews coming up, because I'm going to have Gabe back, of course, in the studio. We had to cancel your book signing, dude, because of the world.
Yeah.
Tell us about your new book series, man.
I put out 5 new books chronicling a lot of the collections I've done since 2012, including The Outlaws, Power, Love, and Success, which is like the business people type stuff. Lug series, the Desperado series, which is another set of sort of Wild West outlaw stuff, and Noir. So you can get them in a box set too. They come in a hard case sleeve, which is an option that I do a silver paint pen drawing on top of. Available at the gallery.
Yeah, they can buy them here, and I have a bunch in front of me. Like, you can buy this now, and when you come to town, you can do some cool things with it. Like, you can open the front up and draw a picture or something right there for our customers. So here's the deal, with you're most famous for your outlaws, your cinematic artwork, but a lot of people know you as an LA artist. You're actually from Wyoming.
Yeah. Born and raised in Wyoming. Left Wyoming when I was right after I graduated high school. So I'd have been like 17, 18, 1994. And so a lot of especially the Western themed pieces I do are coming from that experience of being around the types of people that live in that part of the country, which are different generally really strong-willed and strong-minded people. When I first started doing the outlaw stuff, I switched from doing fantasy work. I was doing like mermaids and fairies and floating trees and different things, and I decided I would do something completely different. I was thinking American history was interesting, and so I started with thinking about the history that I grew up around, which was where I grew up around close to where the Wild Bunch Hole in the Wall hideout was. I grew up where a lot of the Native American Lakota Sioux lived. I grew up around a lot of, not too far from Deadwood, South Dakota, which has been made famous in TV shows and movies. And I started thinking about the environment of Wyoming and South Dakota, Montana, and they're long, rough winters. There's not a lot of stuff out there. And these people were out there before running water and power lines and paved roads. And so they had to not only endure the environment, the animals that were there, the cougars and bears, all kinds of other stuff, and then the native people that were there that were not generally excited about the white guy coming into their lands. So I imagine these people just being really strong-willed, tough people, and so I put that into the paintings. And so I started with some historical figures, like a lot of this came out of the end of the Civil War, so I started doing some research on Confederate Union armies, what they were doing, their leaders, and I started seeing all these places I've been in the U.S. where I grew up I started seeing them as not just a place where there's a Walmart and a nice paved road, but all this other stuff that happened before we were here. And so I started putting what my imagination would be into those works. So I still go back to some of the historical stuff, like this right here, Portrait of Frederick Douglass, who I've got one of his autobiographies, which I've read a couple of times. Pretty fascinating stuff.
It's great. I've been watching you, of course, on Facebook, your progress with this painting. So I was excited when we got onto our chat to see the painting with you today. Yeah.
And so one of the things this lockdown's given me is, because shows are canceled and a lot of deadlines are lifted up, is I have a lot more time to kind of dink around on pieces and putting just a little extra time into things and slowing down the pace of what I do and not worrying about, my first thought was I can be extra productive. I can make all these new paintings. And I find myself not worrying about being super productive as I am about just taking my time and enjoying what I'm doing a little bit more.
I mean, there's a real silver lining with this for our artists, and everyone I keep interviewing and talking with keeps saying wow, I've really found some time to hone in on my craft right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of pressure generally to just, not just with art, but with everybody I know is working and doing something. It's like you have to produce more than you did before, and it has to be even better, and it has to, like there's this just really drumbeat of fast and better and more. And in the art, it kind of, if you succumb to that too much, you end up producing less quality of work. You might produce a lot more, but something gives usually. It's like there's so much uncertainty about what's going to happen in the future that there's no pressure to meet it. You know?
Right. Right. I mean, and we're all going through the same thing too, as even here at the gallery, we're doing cool things with our website and doing Todd Talks. Through the years, you've taken on new themes and new phases through your career, but always sticking to the Gabe Leonard signature, if you will. One of my favorite things that you ever did was the Pirates series, which I thought was fascinating. The love and success for the Prohibition gangsters, and always, girls and guns and coming back to the Wild West. Is there a theme that you haven't touched on that you want to, or is there something coming up that we don't know about yet that you have planned, or what's going on through the mind of Gabe Leonard right now?
I've got a friend I work with quite a bit, and he's a film producer, and he's got a script that we're working on. It's going to be, this is before all this started happening, and the theme was a post-apocalyptic rockabilly western kind of thing, where it takes place after the apocalypse, and everybody's died. There's like lots of things scrambled around. This takes place like between Reno and Salt Lake City and Vegas, so it's like in the desert. And the people who aren't affected are people who are insane or who are left-handed.
Oh, and I'd be okay.
There's motorcycle gangs. There's like this cult. The main character he starts off in the beginning of the story. He's taking medication, and he runs out of his medication. He splits into 3 personalities, kind of like the man in black, the man in white, and then his regular self, and they all fight with each other as they go through the story. And it'll be like, imagine like guys with big pompadours and kind of like maybe Mad Max and Book of Eli with some sort of rockabilly twist to it. I don't know. So I've been toying with that. I got an iPad which I'm using this Zoom meeting for, and I've been toying around with doing digital sketches and digital pre-production stuff to kind of plan out some things. And I've used that in a couple of paintings where I do a sort of a plan, and then I go to the bigger painting. Like, I don't know if you saw the painting I've been working on recently. It's got a guy with a big hand and a pistol pointing right at you. And this started out as a digital painting, which I then printed out onto a small canvas, and I stretched it, and I touched it up with oil paints to see where it would go. And then I liked it, so I started a whole big painting on it. And I did all the pre-production work with a kind of a mixed media. It helps to minimize the time in pre-production stuff, and it's a little more efficient.
So you're really going all media with what you're doing. Like you're using traditional, oil painting techniques and going right to like what's happening today. Like you're doing it all.
Yeah. Well, there's always, part of doing this is always trying to find new and interesting ways of doing things, things that make your work production more efficient. I like to get immediate results. So that's one thing I like about the digital realm. What I don't like about the digital realm is that you have one stylus pen that covers all the types of brushes. And so I realized like there's a whole lot of things that go into the size of the brushes that I use, the handling that I do, like all these different things that I can't do with a stylus pen.
Right. That makes sense.
There's a lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot of things that don't translate very well, like, and that I really like about doing things in traditional mediums that you just can't do with digital yet.
Sure. One of the things that people that come into AO5 that collect your work or are interested in collecting your work, people that have known about you since before I did even, that will say to me, I met Gabe Leonard in Austin way back in the day at the Pecan Festival, the street festival.
Yeah.
You really got your start, Venice Boardwalk and moving around the country doing art shows. So you actually had your foot. There are people in Austin that have original paintings of yours from over 10 years ago that, should really be coveting them.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while. I started on the ground on a blanket in Venice Beach. And I was trying to get a real job working at studios, and those jobs never materialized while I kept on finding success selling my art as regular art to people. And then I just kept reinvesting my time and money into better ways of doing my displays, making bigger art, getting bigger vans to carry more work. As I made more money, I was able to travel farther. Like the logistics of traveling with your work require a certain expectation of making money. You have to start proving yourself before you can branch out. And so I kind of evolved it and built it up over time until I was traveling to Florida once a year, all over Texas. During the springtime, I would be all over Texas doing festivals. This is the time to do it. And if I was still doing festivals and street shows, I would be completely screwed right now. All that just vanish.
I have a lot of artists that only do street festivals and art festivals, and I'm the only gallery that they're in.
Yeah.
You know, like, thank you for coming to me 5 years ago and being in the gallery. You know, you've made your name well known though over time. I mean, you're sold in Canada and the United Kingdom as well, and probably pretty soon you'll be out in Singapore and some other places too. I mean, are you trying to spread the evil empire of Gabe Leonard around the world, or would you
slowly? Yeah, if you start doing that too quickly, it gets out of your hands too much. Like what I don't want to do is be spread so thin that I'm just sitting around working on stuff that I don't like working on. So like right now, my focus is to manage the amount of accounts that I do have, so that I'm able to deliver to the people that I'm already working with. Like, I'm only one person. I can only make so much artwork. So as I grow, make very sure that I'm going to be able to support their gallery and along with the galleries I already have.
You know, this really smart, and I've always admired you for the fact that, you know, people come into a gallery that aren't educated in what art truly is, and they'll see something, they'll say, oh, this is just a print, which is something that drives me nuts. Printmaking is a historical art form, from Picasso, Dali. There's a lot of printmakers. However, in the Gabe Leonard universe, your prints, quote unquote, if they're giclée on canvas, whatever they are, you on many more often than not, you hand paint each piece. So you have embellished limited editions, and then you have, which I love, are your uniquely, is that a cat?
Yeah.
Are your uniquely embellished limited edition artist proofs. So in other words, you'll make a piece like these behind me, and you'll do only 7 of them. Yeah. And you'll put something unique on each one that's different. So no two are truly alike. Sign and number each one, and it'll say like AP 5 of 7. So what was, and I know the answer to this, but I want people to hear, what was the impetus of you to make very limited, like only 7 in the world, limited editions that are uniquely? Is it because people are like, I just don't like prints, or is it because Gabe touched it? Like, what's the impetus?
Well, some of it is some of all that. So one of the things is I wanted to make something that was very exclusive. So only 7 of them available, right? They're also a lot less expensive than the original paintings, but they're also unique from each other and the rest of the edition. It was an effort to create something that was both valuable, because there's not a lot of them around, and something that is unique, which is trying to scratch the itch of somebody who wants something original, but the big paintings can be quite expensive. That's basically it. And even my regular editions aren't very large. One of the things that I always thought was kind of funny, looking at some of the other artists in commercial galleries, is that they would have limited editions, but they would be limited to like 1,500 or 2,000. Yeah. And my own experience of selling my own artwork let me understand, like, it takes a while to go through 75 or 100 prints. And some of it also is that it keeps pressure on me to keep creating new work too. So I can't just sit around and kick back and worry about prints. Like, the whole point is to be making new artwork. I generally work under pressure pretty well, and sometimes I don't work at all unless I'm pressured, and so I'll create those pressures for myself. Like, even when I was doing shows and festivals, what kept me doing is that you'd have to apply for these things and buy booth spaces months in advance. So I'd have committed to it, and so I have to show up and I have to bring something. So what I tend to do is I tend to make commitments or bite off whatever more than I think I can chew, and then I figure out how to make it happen.
And, you know, I admire you because you've also protected your collectors by making things very limited as well. I've watched the certain pieces just sell, and they're just gone. And even you're like, dude, I don't have one. I said, you can't get me one of these? You're like, dude, I don't even have one. Like, they're all gone. That's pretty remarkable.
The other pressure it's on is, like, you continuously have to come up with something better than you did before.
I mean, I'm obsessed with what you do in general, but you know, when you came to the show, I guess it was last year before, you know, when you did the Girls and Guns show, holy cow, like it was a crazy night. It was packed house. The theme was great. And that, you know, again, people, you know, I know that we had Pirates of the Caribbean and all this others. You were so completely different and almost on a historical level with your pirates. Like, to me, it was really fascinating.
Yeah, when I was doing most of the Pirates that I've done, it was right in the midst of all the Pirates of the Caribbean, and it wasn't because of that movie. It's like I did the paintings, and then the movie came out, and you just kind of got upstaged by Hollywood, you know, like, and the Pirates there's more of a niche audience for that. It isn't as broad, you know. It's what the funny thing is, they do better in Texas than they do anywhere else.
Not funny.
And then when I started doing them, I thought, well, it was right before I started going to Florida to do shows out there. And I thought, well, they may not like my outlaw paintings, but they might like pirates. So it should be, I thought it was a kind of an analogous thing. And it turned out that the outlaw stuff was what they liked the most out there. So like, that seems to be the most popular everywhere I go. And I've got another theme of things I'm working on which have to do with cars. Think of like Mopar, like classic 60s and 70s muscle cars and Cadillacs and stuff like that, which I might work in with my post-apocalyptic theme, which would be like a Mad Max thing maybe. There's lots of interests that I have, and you know, there's also like famous authors, like a portrait series of scientists. Been watching a lot of movies that feature Jack Nicholson from like Easy Rider and The Shining, and thought about doing the 7 Deadly Sins of Jack Nicholson, because there's always shots of his face that are just interesting and just crazy looking that I thought would be kind of fun. Like, I thought about doing the Many Shades of Walter White, which would be a portrait of him from every episode of the entire show.
You know,
so there'd be like 300 portraits of Walter White, and you time lapse them together and watch them change over time.
Well, I need to like lie to all you artists and tell you that the quarantine is going on until 2025, and just have you guys creating. Like, you guys cannot leave. It's really bad out there. Just keep painting.
That's fine by me. I mean, I can live with that.
I'm working with it too. But what I really want is for it to end, because we really have you back here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to coming. I was disappointed, sad not to be able to make it out here. But, you know, normally I'm out there in the fall, so hopefully this subsides a bit and we can reconvene in our fall schedule again.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I love Austin. Austin is so much. Every time I go to Austin, I have such a great time too. So I was kind of disappointed not to get out there this time. But
yeah, we have a good time with you here too, man. It's so nice to like have an artist like yourself. You know, I did some other interviews, and again, the artists that I have here at AO5 Gallery are just dope. Like, you guys are so cool, and you're such a breath of fresh air. Oh, speaking of, do your virtual background for us. Let's see the.
Let's see if I can figure that.
This is great. This is great. Because it looks so funny, dude. There you go. Yes, the post-apocalyptic little house on the prairie.
This is the quarantine of 1875 right here.
Okay, I'm going to sign off, buddy. Is there anything you want to say to everybody before I say goodbye to you?
If I had to say anything to anybody, it's to try to remain calm as best as possible, be patient. And we're all in this world of uncertainty together, so we can, you know, I guess if misery loves company, we can all enjoy each other's company, and stay healthy and safe. Reach out to your friends. If you need to talk to somebody, reach out to somebody. Find a hobby.
Right?
You know, ride your bike if you can, you know, pick up a pencil and paper and start drawing and doodling. Kind of keep you from going nuts online all the time. Like, I know how it is.
Yeah.
We're all in this
that thing
covered wagon stuck in the sand together.
I love it, dude. You're the best, man.
All right, Todd.
Y'all, I'm Todd Grissler here, AO5 Gallery, and this has been an awesome Todd Talks with Gabe Leonard at a studio in LA. Continue watching interviews coming up. I'll have Gabe back on, and Gabe will be back in Austin for a book signing. So, of course, follow us so we can keep you informed with Gabe's new exciting things. Thanks, everybody. Bye.